Hello, my name is Michael O'Keefe, aka The Movie Wist. If you enjoy this interview and want to hear more top-notch film industry conversations, please press the thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and hit the bell to stay in the know. Hello, Adam Stovall. Before we talk about your movie, A Ghost Waits, tell me how coronavirus has changed your life.
I mean, it might be shorter to say how it hasn't. Actually, that's not fair. There are many people that are struggling and suffering far worse than I am. Uh, Releasing a movie during this time is kind of a difficult thing because we thought we were like, oh yeah, we're going to get into the festival circuit and we're going to be traveling and we had our premiere at Fright Fest Glasgow, and then nothing else because that was the second to last festival to happen, and everyone was just like, nope, we are either going to go virtual or we're delaying, and so that was difficult. And then my day job is I direct audiobooks, and studios have had to close down, obviously, so there's just been no work, and it's not like the most fun thing that's ever happened.
Right.
But I'm in good health. My entire family is doing well. My parents both took this very seriously and wear their masks and everything. So I feel like in the grand scheme of things, it could be going far worse.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, so I'm sorry that you've had to go through some stuff, but you're still alive, so that counts for something, right?
Yeah, and I mean, who amongst us hasn't had to go through some stuff?
There you go. All right, my friend. I appreciate the chipper demeanor. So please pitch to my audience A Ghost Waits.
Oh boy, pitching it still.
Give me a pitch, buddy.
It's just a little 79-minute black and white movie about loneliness and finding connection in an uncaring universe. Who doesn't want that? No, I mean, the story of the film, it concerns, so Jack, who was played by McLeod Andrews, works for this real estate company. His job is he goes into recently vacated rental units, cleans them, fixes them up, gets them ready to be rented again. And at one point, he is sent to a troubled property. Everybody breaks their lease. Everybody leaves this place quickly, and nobody knows why. And so he's sent in to see if he can figure out why, and eventually discovers that it's haunted. And so it's haunted by a ghost named Muriel, who's played by Natalie Walker, who's very good at her job typically, but Jack also has a job to do and refuses to leave the house, and they get to talking, and, we get to kind of explore, I don't know, a lot of things. That's basically it.
That's a good nutshell pitch, for sure.
Yeah.
We want people to watch the movie to enjoy the narrative, but I can assure them as well, it's very fun. It's very sweet.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Sweet without being, I don't mean that in a patronizing way. I mean it's earned sweetness. It's not contrived.
Yeah, it definitely has kind of a romantic heart, and I'm not that's not fair to say. I am a sentimental person, but I'm not a saccharine person. I deplore unearned sentiment. And the movie actually originally had a different ending. Now, it never got to the point of scripting. When I was kind of conceiving of the idea, it had a very different ending. And I told a few friends about it, and they were just like, no, that may be a little much for people. And so I was really happy to kind of stumble upon the idea for how the movie ends now. I think it's a hopeful ending in the greater context of the story.
All right. So it's very funny, too. And within I don't even know, is it a horror comedy? Is it a comedic horror?
It's a haunted house rom-com.
Okay. These distinctions, genre distinctions, can be very arbitrary sometimes.
Yes.
But just going ahead and going for it anyways. Can you tell me what are some of your favorite horror comedies?
Well, Shaun of the Dead.
Oh yeah.
That's just a favorite.
Yeah.
Movie.
Uh-huh.
Evil Dead 2.
Oh, nice.
Obviously. Gremlins. Gremlins 2 is legitimately one of my favorite movies of all time.
Wow.
But I feel like like top 5. But I feel like it really doesn't have any of the horror element that the first one had, at least a little bit of. So Gremlins would definitely go in. Have you ever seen The Old Dark House?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the 30s?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
It's a great movie. James Whale.
Yeah. And it's kind of like Scream before Scream. Like if Scream is Wes Craven kind of taking the piss out of, himself and the genre, then this is James Whale taking the piss out of himself and the genre. I love that it opens with a card that, like, yes, Boris Karloff is playing a character in this, but he's not playing Frankenstein's monster. It makes me very happy. That's a pretty solid. That's a pretty solid list.
Do you like Peter Jackson's early movies, like Bad Taste, Dead Alive?
Oh yes. Sorry, that definitely should go on the list.
Bad Taste to me is amazing.
Bad Taste I might not have seen.
Oh my god, it's like it's his first movie, and it's about these aliens who want to make like Earth part of their fast food chain.
Well, I have to see. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I'll say no more. I've already got you in. I think it's on YouTube. I mean, you got to see it to believe it. It's amazing.
Excellent. That is kind of his early. I remember seeing Meet the Feebles, and just like it's like, wait a second, this is going to be Lord of the Rings, and obviously Dead Alive is amazing.
Dead Alive is amazing.
I will never, unless like dementia takes my brain, I will never forget the lawnmower sequence.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His early stuff is so fascinating. Like, have you ever seen Forgotten Silver?
I love Forgotten Silver. Yeah.
I mean, I love just telling people about that movie because it sounds like you're making it up as you go. Mm-hmm. Like the story behind it and everything. Yeah, he's a fascinating person. Yeah.
I know. And I know some people in New Zealand thought it was for real, too. Mm-hmm. Amazing.
Yeah.
And Harvey Weinstein did that, which is really scary now. Anyways, how long was this shoot, and was it fun?
Principal photography, was 2 weeks, 2 6-day weeks, so 12 days back in August 2016, and then I wrote this movie, I produced this movie, I directed it, I did craft services. I also edited the movie, and editing took forever.
Oh, really?
So we wrapped, and I took kind of a week to just sleep.
Fair enough.
Recover. And so 2 weeks after we wrapped, my then girlfriend and I had our first like date night after, this thing that had taken over my life for a bunch of months. And she decided that would be a good night to break up with me.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So
that's rough.
It was really bad. And that just, there was a month where I didn't feel anything. And then there was a month of feeling sad and angry. And then eventually you kind of start rebuilding. But, the plan had been to sit down and start editing immediately. And of course, sit down and it's like, I can't do anything. And that kind of pushed things back. But then, so got into the editing and put it all together into an assembly cut, which was an hour and 50 minutes, 150. And I looked at it and I thought, oh no, I think I made a bad movie. But the ending always worked. And so it became like, okay, well, let's just start tightening this up and get to the ending faster. And pretty soon, scenes here and there started really taking shape, and you could see like, oh, this is a real movie. And it eventually got to a point where anything past minute 34, which is where kind of Muriel is revealed and enters the story actively, was good, was strong. But we really hadn't earned it. Our first act was really weak. So we had no money left. This was a very small budget. And so McLeod came back, and just he and I shot the reshoots. We got back into the house and just kind of figured out, like, what do we need? What needs to be replaced? What's a better way to do this? And so that was about 4 days, and I want to say April 2017. And then got done with that, edited all that into it, kept working, sent it out, got some notes. And eventually we got to a point where the movie was, it was very clear what didn't work. And, I remember one night we had planned to convene to work on editing together because he lives in LA and I live in New York. We had planned to get together to work in the same space. And the same scene same 2 scenes kept getting notes. And I was like, but this is what's happening. And I realized, I haven't done that. So we decided, instead of reconvening to edit, we're going to reconvene in Cincinnati where the movie was shot, get back into the house and figure out how to do what needed to be done. Because at this point, the movie was at a point where everything that was there needed to be there, but some of it wasn't making the point the best way that it could. And so it was 12 days initially, and then 2 sets of 4-day pickups, one in April 2017, one in February 2018.
Jeez.
20 days over 3 years.
My God.
Yeah.
Hearing about movie making is weird. Like, you just watch a movie and it's seamless, but then, you hear stories like this. God.
It's ridiculous. And, I mean, this is my 5th year of working on this movie. We're still tweaking sound stuff here and there. But, my dad, my dad watched it, and we were, out getting a drink somewhere, and he's just like, wait a second. So in a movie, when someone just closes a cabinet, that what I'm hearing isn't the sound of that cabinet. I'm like, no, that's something else. And it's Foley and blah, blah, blah. Explaining. And he's just like, wow, movies are far more complicated than I thought.
Sounds like it. So, all right. Who was the MVP of your crew? If you had to just isolate it to one person.
Man, I mean, I gotta say McLeod Andrews. I'm really lucky that my best friend is a staggeringly talented actor and producer. But this movie doesn't exist without McLeod. When I had the idea, I obviously told him first because I tell him everything that I come up with.
Yeah.
And but the character of Jack, nobody else would play that character for me. I needed it to be him, and if he had said no, I don't really feel it, we just wouldn't have made this movie. Fortunately, we're kind of interested by the same things, and so he wanted to make it. But yeah, McLeod is absolutely the MVP. I don't know what my life would be like without him, and I'm so grateful to have such a good friend and collaborator.
Are you proud of the final product?
Oh yes. Yeah, I mean, so obviously I said before, I did many jobs on this movie.
Yeah.
And a large part of that is budgetary concerns. We made this movie for less than a base level Mercedes cost.
Jeez.
Yeah, very little money. And part of, okay, well, I know I'm going to, I didn't even think I'd have a director of photography for production, but Michael Potter came on, gave us kind of a sweetheart deal. But I was planning to shoot it, I'd edit it, all that stuff. And part of it was I wanted to learn. And at this budget level, I wouldn't lose too much sleep if the next 10 years of my life were dedicated to repaying the people that we have 2 investors. I'd be able to pay them back over an extended amount of time. But so having my thumbprints all over this, and it's such a personal story, and the process of making it, I learned so much. I think I became a better person through making it, just trusting people, collaborating with people, being patient, remembering to be patient, which sometimes takes more effort than, others. Yeah, when I look at it now, I actually just watched it yesterday because we put some new music in, and I was reviewing the file, and so I just ended up watching the whole thing. And like I said, it's my 5th year working on it. I don't know how many times I watched it, and I still get caught up in it. I'm really proud, and it's not even. I mean, to some extent, yes. Like having a small budget, anything that exists is kind of a miracle. But
Sure.
But like what we were able to do, what McLeod and Natalie and Amanda and Sydney and just, everybody on camera, there was just a lot of love that went into this movie. And when I look at it now, I feel like I don't think anybody who worked on it would be disappointed. And we've gotten some response. Like I said, the movie had its world premiere in Glasgow, and it really resonated. People were coming up afterwards, not just to say that they liked the movie, but that it really meant something to them. That it spoke to, a concern, an existential concern, an insecurity. It helped them gain an insight into their relationship. Like it means so much in that sense. And yeah, like when you're making a movie that's so small and so personal. Part of the process for me, I don't speak for anybody else here, but I made this a little bit later than most people make their first movie. I made it in my later 30s. And it was kind of a life or death thing because I was at a very low point in my life, possibly the lowest point. And I didn't have a backup plan. And I was just so tired of waiting for somebody to open the door. You just at some point you're like, nobody's going to open this door. Nobody's going to hire me to do this. Nobody's going to, it's like, I don't know how to pull this off. So I decided I have to make a movie. I had written a script that people liked, but we couldn't raise enough. I did that again with a smaller number. We still couldn't raise it. So with this, it was just like, okay, it's going to be like one location. I think in total there's 3 in the movie. But like all of them were through friends. They were all pretty much free. I paid for like the house that we shot in. I paid their power bill. But it was friends saying, I know how much this means to you. Here you go. When you're somebody who has struggled as I have with depression, suicidal ideation, and anxiety, a very frequent concern is that I didn't have a place in the world. I never felt like I fit. And what this movie did, more than anything else really, was show me that I did have a place in the world, and I feel like a human being like the rest of you now, and it's amazing. But so, yeah, I'm proud of the movie on just so many levels, and I'm so grateful that I got to make it.
Wow. Jeez. I mean, it's got a lot. It's got a lot of heart for a genre movie as well. Like what you're saying about people feeling connected to themselves, because usually you slap on, a horror movie or a horror movie with some comedy, and you expect one thing, but to come out at the end and have like a cleansing, like not just for yourself, but like as an audience member, is really like a nice surprise, right?
Yeah, I think I didn't grow up a horror kid. I was a big comedy nerd.
Yeah.
And I liked sci-fi, and my friends trended more towards action than horror, so I watched like The Running Man a million times.
Sure.
But so I came to horror kind of late in life, and by that point, it's in mainstream culture, especially, horror gets kind of ghettoized.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
You see it now with the elevated horror conversation, and like, well, that's not a horror movie. That's if it wins an award, it's a thriller.
Oh no, yeah. With Hereditary too.
Right.
Yeah.
And so like, but my sister's ex-husband is a big horror guy, and when I would visit, he decided to just educate me on horror, and you start getting into it, and you watch something like De Palma's Sisters, or you watch kind of the Halloween, these great films. It's like, oh, there's far more going on than just like boobs and blood.
Right. Right.
Now some movies are just that, and there's clearly an audience, and like do your thing.
Right.
But what I found as I got more into horror is that I really liked that the heightened storytelling, it allowed for kind of an operatic approach. And as long as your metaphor is strong and you kind of, like you can really talk about some stuff
You can.
in horror. Yeah.
Absolutely, because it's so heightened, it allows for big emotions.
Well, it's like, you mentioned Hereditary. Ari Aster
Right.
said that if Hereditary hadn't been an action or hadn't been a horror movie, it never would have gotten made. Because no one's making family dramas right now from somebody who hasn't made a film before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
No, it's
good gateway
it's
or entry level sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I did a little research about you, and I saw that you did some film journalism. Am I correct?
Yeah. Yeah. For a few years, I was a writer and then editor at Creative Screenwriting Magazine, which was kind of, I always say, like, my film school was that and then YouTube. Like,
oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And then making a movie. But so yeah, I did that mostly, and then kind of one-offs for like IndieWire, Hollywood Reporter.
Wow.
Yeah, there were a few here and there.
And what like I know you obviously talked about this, that, and the third, but like were there any underlying themes, or were there things that you would champion as a critic?
How do you mean?
Well, like what were you about as a critic? Were there like things that you gravitated towards?
So I didn't spend much time as a critic. I reviewed some films.
Yeah.
And I would write up like festivals where you're kind of touching on, like, I'd see 5 movies a day. And so my daily update is like, this, that, the other thing. I did write a review of Twilight Eclipse.
My God.
But it was about the experience of going to see that movie on opening night. And like being somebody for whom like going to the cinema, like, it's church. Like that's my church.
Yeah.
I go there, I feel like I have people, and to go to the opening night party. I mean, there's no other word for it. It's a party.
Yeah.
And to like feel alone, where it's just like, I don't understand what any of these people are talking about. I'm not sure what they're getting from this experience outside of like, I like when he takes his shirt off. I like when he takes his shirt off. Like, I was just like, I don't really understand this, but it's fascinating to me. But no, for the most part, I interviewed filmmakers and wrote articles about kind of new releases.
Yeah. Okay. So, here we are. It's the Corona era. This is what I'm calling it. The Corona era. Yeah. And is there a horror series that will take like forever for someone to watch that you would like to recommend to people?
That's a good question. So my first thought is Hannibal, the TV show.
Right.
I adore that show, and it's 3 years. I want to say like 12 episodes a year, maybe.
Wow.
Their season. But I love that. I just did 2 deep dives. One into I realized that I had never actually seen the Scream 4, and I hadn't seen Scream 3 since opening weekend. So I went back and rewatched all 4 of those, and the first one's obviously great. The second one, while not as good as the first, has some like all-timer sequences. Just all-time great. Like Sydney climbing out of the car sequence is amazing. Scream 3 has moments, and then Scream 4 was good. And then I also did a deep dive into Final Destination movies, which was fascinating. But as far as like what I really like stand behind, I think if you haven't seen Hannibal, you should definitely watch Hannibal.
All right. Well, Adam, thanks for your time. What do you have planned for the rest of the year?
So right now I'm working on a script for a sci-fi thriller. It's kind of a time travel road movie. And so, can't go anywhere. There's no work to be done. So I just kind of spend my days thinking about time travel. And then there's a couple horror ideas that we're looking at to do next, or that we might do. We're talking to companies who we've had some people reach out after the movie screened, and that's been really nice. And talking this one up and trying to get the next movie greenlit, and just that.
That sounds like a lot, man. All right.
And now basketball's back, so I get to wind down watching basketball, which is great.
Who's your team? You like the Knicks?
I cheer for LeBron James.
Okay. Okay.
Although I think my team is the Bucks, because it started I just love watching Giannis play and what they've built around him. And they're still kind of an underdog, even though they're the number one team in the league. Somehow they're still the underdog, so it's a lot of fun to cheer for them and just watch Giannis pull off things that no human body should be able to do. But I did want to say before we go, I can better answer. Okay, so as you asked, what was my theme or whatever as a critic, as a journalist, what I really strove to do was I really wanted to get into the nuts and bolts of filmmaking. As somebody who knew he was interested in being a filmmaker, I had the really rare opportunity to talk with people like J.J. Abrams, Pedro Almodovar, Edgar Wright.
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, I got amazing opportunities, and I have no interest in asking somebody what's it like to work with George Clooney.
Right.
These gotcha, the idea of a gotcha question or gossipy questions, couldn't care less. I want to know, okay, you wrote this script. What was the initial seed of the idea, and when did you know you were done? What's the part of it that surprised you the most? So, and especially writing for an outlet like Creative Screenwriting Magazine, I got to focus on really the nuts and bolts of writing, and that was what I championed. And then when that magazine ceased to be a magazine and became a blog, I, kind of made the decision to not work on that anymore and instead focus. At that point, I'd started working as a PA on some sets. I got my first gig on a film working as a second AD. And at that point, I was like, okay, I'm going to focus on production and not worry about, journalism anymore. That was a really fun part of my life, but I think that ship has sailed, and I feel really good about what I got to do during it.
All right. Well, I wanted to hop in. I'll say one more thing about basketball. When I was in Los Angeles last year, and I pitched a script, and I was in the cab, and we were driving around Beverly Boulevard, and I looked at this big stadium, and I said to myself, that has to be where the Lakers play. And it was true.
Yep.
It's a big stadium.
It's that whole entertainment center, man. It's quite something.
It's very large. All right, buddy.
Go ahead.
Yeah, ask me a question.
Great. So, because I don't get to talk to that many people who've seen the movie, because of Corona. What kind of resonated for you? What did you like the most? What did you,
Well, I don't want to give away plot things. I want people to enjoy it, but I would say there's a twist that I thought was inspired, and to see an emotional connection or a tender connection, to be more specific, in a situation where it should be more harrowing or more frightful generically, to me was inspired and an interesting direction to take a genre movie. And the feeling of like I said, the sweetness within a horror film or a movie with horror elements was welcomed by me, because I don't seek out, maybe I wouldn't maybe if someone had just dictated to me the entire plot, maybe I'd be like, well, maybe I'll check that out later and maybe not get around to it. But having experienced it, and I was like, well, this is not what I seek out normally, and I'm glad I saw it, because I felt like I went on a journey that was more personal and more unique. And how often can you say that, right?
Yeah, that's so great to hear. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, thank you, Adam.